We now return to Let's Play Ace Attorney Chronicles, the Old Bailey. Oh, thank goodness, we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Herlock Sholmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. Did we have a guinea on us? I'm not sure why you're pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever's about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. So, really? We get to pull out the willy. Top of the morning to you, madam, sir. What are you doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, are they? Is that the accent I want to go with for that? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces from the East, are you? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. I kind of wish we'd get to go through cutscenes, because it kind of gives you a hint as to what the character's voice is actually. So, how much do you need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange, faraway land. He's the Mad Hatter, though. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet. No. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000 guineas. Holy shit! Say nothing now. He's buying us off. He's buying us off. He's buying us off. 1,000 guineas? Please, Mr. Sato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is... It's enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. Nani? It's nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. And I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Did that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah! It hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing. The trial is about to begin, you see. It is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. Ah, here's the client. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about the thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. What? So it was true. Unless I'm in the box with him, I can't stand... Okay. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't making it up at all. Or making it all up. Yeah, okay. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but... Does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes! Do you not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city, you see. Let's see. Suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park there, he's Dr. Jekyll. There's at center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, park? What? It is called Gilded Park, full of blossoming flowers and the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park? In central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded couldn't or wouldn't do for the city, and it's quite our old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. Nah, but now they've the goal to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What's the matter with the London police, I ask you? Okay. Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo, perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath, because we've only got like 10 minutes and then he's putting his life on the line. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best to— What was I after saying, you daft idiot? I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I can see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, where are we going now, guys? Where is this accent going now? We're going to South Africa. Shit. Willie, but if that's true, why the blazes can't they have hired the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well, not at all. Not at all. Although it is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? Did he just say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey. Or Berk van Zieks. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused... fucking Van Zieks? What nationality is that? Am I gonna have to go Germanic? Fuck these accents. What did I do to myself? They call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused have been damned. What? So it's reached a desperate situation, where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Berk van Zieks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. And how did he become an English lord? Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed. On earth? The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial's about to begin. His counsel? That would be me. What, 'tis time? Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here. I'd made up my mind, so I had... sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? It is no accident. I can assure you of that. It is fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. After all, there's a lot of money riding on this. Mr. Naruhodo. The man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Cosma. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this or all the crazy accents we're about to do. "10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Well, this is the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. Yes, those are very serene, blazing braziers over there. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. I almost want to go de blah, de bull, de hunger. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. The correct period term would have been Oriental, but do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes, please. Nipponese. Those eyes please me. They surround your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. I do not know what this is, but we shall just go with it. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes. Oh, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord. Fuck, I don't know how long I can do this, folks. You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this, foreigner? As I've always said, my lord, it is a grand thing to give opportunities to the young, even if the fellow's a student from some little island of the Far East. Is it not the British way? British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance? Yes, that is the motto and rote of the British Empire, you betcha. I'd like to think the acts of chivalry do the great British Empire crowd proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has today. Do you hear the way that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please, may we go to play in McGilded Park? It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That will change. It's definitely welcome news. He certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded. A most laudable sentiment. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Fuck, 6 more? 6 more? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish properly. Naturally, I agree. Why, any criminals here will be so wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with me knitting. Must finish these mitts for me grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, those people are all over the place. Chisato, yes. The jury, yes. There's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it'll become clear as the trial progresses. Yes. Prosecutor Van Zeeks. My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I am known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstances of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. I have absolutely no idea what accent he's got, but it's what we're going with. So the Reaper's been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now the opening statements, I think. A summary of this case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We're just going to throw all of it in. All of it. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening. 3 days passed. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry, thrice? I thought you spoke English, you dingbat. He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger had been thrust into the victim's abdomen. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. The report prepared by Scotland Yard's coroner. I wonder if what's-his-face is... because he said he was from Scotland Yard. He'll probably make an appearance later. It gives the cause of death as internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound to the abdomen. I imagine if it was a stab wound, there was also a lot of external hemorrhaging as well. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record, as well as the photograph of the victim taken on the omnibus. A knife in the abdomen is clearly visible, but his face is partly obscured from view by an old crooked hat. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... good lord, is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. And these gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. Nani? Mr. McGilden's gloves had blood on them? Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. The leather gloves of the defendant that the defendant was wearing at the time of the incident. There's a blood stain on the right glove. How did I get into this? I'm backed into a corner before I even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, There were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I had no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded? To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Milton, so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I had never laid eyes on before in my life. And now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about my gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves, then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moments at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order! Order! When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. There were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. The accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we'll hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. Oh, Jesus Christ. Three! Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. What's an East End accent? Oi! Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. He wouldn't have that accent, would he, Gov? My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for the gents. He's Australian now. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes. Fuck me, mate. It's right, sir. I don't know. There's too many people talking to keep going with this. Well then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as fuck me, I've already lost the plot, boss. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, The incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it?
As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes.
Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant of our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for all of us, for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is.
What do you mean? The actual scene? How?
The carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much.
Yes.
The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building.
Here? What? Then the entire carriage?
Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus.
I admit I've already forgotten the witness testimony. I was too focused on doing the voices. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. Can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers.
4 passengers seated inside in the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out for our foreign guests,
I guess that means he's not a foreigner, but
that there's a skylight in the roof allowing a view of the interior from the seats above.
A skylight?
No! The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on the omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight.
That makes perfect sense.
Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced a crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence.
The 8-seater omnibus that was the scene of the crime. There were passengers both inside the carriage and on the roof deck that night. Night. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Perhaps we can do it now? How do I do this again? Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible. That's blood that's soaked... that's soaked into the seat. The victim's, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark. There we go. Dark. And there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. I don't think we want to do that just yet, but apparently that's... Okay, there we go. Ooh, hold on a tick. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description, so I suppose it can't be opened from inside the cabin at least. From inside the cabin, at least. No, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower. Okay. This seat has a handle, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding it tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure, but what about a passenger themselves? Well, I don't imagine it'd be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Is it just all... Yeah, that's what... Right. So we at least know there was that compartment in there. Doesn't seem to be one that's under there. Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then. Okay, this is... Can't find anything out of that. Okay. Right. I forgot the controls. This will be a lot easier to do. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on better winter nights with the cold air rushing past them? And they have to pay money to do so. I can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. Okay. Which seat, then? So this is the... okay. I was just wondering if maybe it would... Let's do this one more time. I think it's all connected. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. There's a latch there. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. It's not good for us. Okay, but... Okay, but... Can I... Damn it. Yeah, there's a latch there. Phoenix Wright Omnibus. Okay. Well, we've determined that there's another point of entry into this thing. Doesn't seem to be anything else, unless we can go... Cannot go under the carriage. Alright. I don't think we need to examine anything else here. We may as well, just in case there's something. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Wonder if he was just hinting at something there. Okay. Autopsy report. A brickmaker. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying in an omnibus. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. And an armband. An armband I inherited from Kazuma. It identifies the wearer as a defense lawyer throughout the Empire of Japan. Can we examine this too? These are the scales of justice. They're a symbol of the defense, aren't they? Get my cables back up here. Yes, that's right. The scales are a symbol of fairness to show that all are treated equally in the eyes of the law, and they're a warning to those who enter the courtroom without an impartial mind. But if they're the mark of the defense, it would be more auspicious if they were weighing more heavily on the not guilty side, I think. Very impartial, I'm sure. The lawyer's name is embroidered on the inside here. Look. Kazuma Asogi. This was his band, of course. He had his heart set on this study tour in Great Britain. I'm sure he would have found the truth he longed for here. But he lost his life before he even had the chance to see the place. I have such a strong sense of his hopes and dreams when I look at this armband, though. Sure. Okay, anyway, we have had a chance to look at the omnibus.
Let us continue the proceedings, then. Your cross-examination, counsel.
Pray don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. I don't even know if I've got his accent anymore. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. What the witnesses saw.
It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well.
Hold it!
We'll just press on everything. Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes.
Ooh, wait a minute.
Yes, sir. It was ever so... Oh, fuck!
How do you move that? You had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Not all traveling...
D, it's D to look around.
Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though, no.
Oh, right. Gotta do it this way. Okay.
And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example.
You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that, no. None.
So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then?
I have to say, the boss insists on it running. He does. Every evening. That's that last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spend that much time at the pub on the way home just trying to warm up again. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. I don't remember your accent, sir.
Hold it!
And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage.
That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet.
There was a lamp on the inside, so I had a pretty good view. A lamp on the inside. The two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. Gilded. Was it so?
How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? Mr. McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else.
Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded.
There's no room for doubt here. I really wish there was.
Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened.
Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days?
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's...
My lord, shit. Who are you? You were the Cockney man, right? You're right, Mary. Juror number 3, what's the meaning of this?
My mind's made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what?
I don't like the steak and rich, never have. What are we going down under all of a sudden? They're always up to something or other, and they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. It's my opinion on the matter anyway. Fuck. That is precisely what I was about to say. As for the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set an example to my fellow jurors.
What the... What's happening here? Let me see. Yes, it seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before.
Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
So does that mean I can't keep doing too much of the pushing? This is a nightmare.
That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you?
Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats.
I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then, I happened to look down through the skylights. Fuck me. It was sticking right out of his belly. A huge great knife.
A grim sight indeed.
That didn't help me at all. The jury looks like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. It appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. Is it? Oh, okay. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First.
Yes, sir.
Is this the knife you saw? Why have you got this now?
Oh, good grief, yes, that's it. The very one, sir.
Is that...
Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stick through the heart. There's a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M for murder, which seems oddly familiar.
Please, no. M. For Magnus, perhaps? Or Gilded, possibly. Take your pick. It seems the particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
But there are M's everywhere. Yes. Like in Mason.
Objection!
Oh, he's got more of a... Fuck me. His blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused.
Most conclusive, but certainly compelling, Counsel.
The murder weapon has been entered into the court record.
My lord, if you'll forgive me the interruption.
Juror number 2, go on.
Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Dispose of the rubbish!
No.
I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. Fuck me. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion.
Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... Alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. Before we do that, let's look at the court record because I want to check this thing out. A largish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen. Its quality and fancy ornamentation suggest it must be quite valuable. That part is the sheath, isn't it? Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, yes. I just don't really like blades. Even though I've got one of my own from Kazuma. Oh, those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. That's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. That looks like a lot like blood. It surely is blood. The victim's. An Englishman's blood looks a lot like Japanese. Looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood. Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. Yes, I do. Okay, but how do I... There we go. An ornate letter M, undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial. And it's beautifully gilded, too. It must be very valuable, I should think. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. Is it a W? If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W? Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know at all, but what I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well, that idea was quickly squashed. So, no fingerprints, huh? I feel like the only way we're getting out of this is through some of those last-minute aha Deus Ex Machina things, just like the first trial. Things that we cannot avoid. But seeing as how... My only thought so far is that he was sitting on the victim's right, which means that in order to stab him with the right hand, he would have had to turn quite far around. And also, in a four-person carriage. Why would two of them sit side by side? I'm still convinced. Aha! Yes, it does make sense because of the seat opposite them would have been the one that opens. I was wondering about that because if he was seated across from him, how did that bench seat get lifted up? Because his weight would have been on it. But now that he's on the other side, it makes sense that that would have been able to open up. Someone would have been able to hide in there and escape through the roof because of the latch would have been on top. An accomplice would have had to been on the roof to open it for them. Unless they opened it, hid in the carriage. Well, they said no one else was out there, though. Anyway, that bench is obviously our one and only ticket to getting out of here. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus. And then I saw it, too.
Hold it!
Saw what? What exactly did you see?
Well, sir, it would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was.
He was not. How do I object to that? He was not? I can't present that. And by the passenger, obviously, you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker.
And then the other passenger had that knife in his hand. I like this.
By the other passenger, obviously, you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded.
And then he punched it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly.
Jesus. Collapsed on the floor. That is the only problem with this. He was collapsed on the floor, then the passenger stabbed him in the gut while he was on the floor, but the blood spatters on the seat. What?
My lord, I forget my own accent. I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5, do I take it that you, too, as the master of the London Guild of...
Won't be doing that one.
As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say.
No, please, just keep an open mind a little longer.
Gee up now, Silver Blaze. The finish is in sight. Pepper is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir.
It's too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madam Juror number 6.
Yes, dear. What can I do for you?
You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand.
Yes, I certainly have. Still got me hearing, you know.
Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning?
Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with me knitting. There's a lovely little park just near there where I live. Gilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have in him to take another man's life.
He is always doing wonderful things for the city.
That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the Gilded Public Library? Oh, Jesus.
You know you can't read, dear. Stop it. How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds?
Do you people not know what kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is?
What kind of a man he is?
The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls.
What?
Stone the crows!
McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak.
I've never heard it. Oh, I've never heard. Suddenly we've changed the part of the country we're from. I've never heard any mention of that before.
Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts.
Good gracious.
The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debt. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. If I might add something briefly, Mrs. Sato. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded, but where is the evidence to support your claim? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law.
There it is. Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice.
How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. Huh? As judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. I knew we didn't have everything yet. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic... I'm holding my throat because doing the voices is killing me, and I can't speak now. To the enigmatic East at the same time.
A marvelous toast, Counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence.
A catalogue of people who had borrowed money from the defendant at a high rate of interest. It includes the victim, who owed 20 guineas.
Yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum.
And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense.
Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes.
Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. Can we interject at all? I want to look at this here real quick. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know anything of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps? Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes's name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this! Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh, yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? He borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. The details of the debtor's ledger have been updated in the court record. Okay, is there more? Okay. Oh, fuck. Okay, I think that's what we came for. So now we have a man who was upon the roof, who could have opened the thing, stabbed the man, and something had to have been hidden in that bench, unless that's just a red herring. Perhaps the... Wait, Bruce Fairplay. Okay. I was thinking how that had anything to do with the M on there.
And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best.
Wait a minute. Let's think about all this a little bit more before...
I don't stand for nonsense.
That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense...
All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case.
Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. I don't know why he's Russian now. Fuck, where the hell are you from?
According to the laws of this country, I will conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections.
Well, it better be. Turn around. Mrs. Sato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. A summation examination?
Objection!
A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say that the book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten and certainly no longer practiced. You don't know much about common law and all the shit that's still on books all around the world.
So you're out of luck.
Oh. What even is it, Miss... What even is it, Miss Susato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Typical Nipponese. All right, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. It says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions.
Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really. so it rather fell out of use, but not off the books.
I wonder why.
Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age.
Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination, our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out, or admit defeat? We'll find out
Next time.